What's your go-to dinner that you can cook well?
Chicken marsala.
Okay, yeah. I had a feeling you would know how to cook. Like Ben has told me he couldn't scramble eggs if he tried.
It terrifies me. Good thing, Uber Eats.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Hey, look, I'm not shaming him for it, but it is funny. Like, I don't even think they don't even have pans or anything in the house. Like, they don't have.
Just order sushi 3 days a week.
Yeah.
Can he take a bowl of cereal and go like that? Is he capable?
I feel like Adam probably knows how to cook one or two things if I had to guess.
Yeah. He's got a sister. He's got a mom that I'm sure nourished him, taught him well. It wasn't always just strip clubs from the day of birth.
Josh can for sure cook. I guarantee it. Josh can cook. He's got a smoker. He has 2 grills. He's got a bunch of, I know he could. Greg, I put big plus money on the no or on the yes that he knows how to cook.
Oh, he does not know how to cook. Not a chance in God's green earth.
No chance, right?
No chance. 0.
Our boy Jordan can cook a little bit. You can cook, right, Jordan? Yeah.
Jordan Cook can definitely also order food and have somebody else pay for it. I've seen that in action.
I mean, that's also a win. What's going on, everybody? Happy to have you with us. You're watching the Stokastic.com Marathon Matchups Strategy Show. Week 1 was a whole lot of fun. We had 13 games to break down. We lopped one of those off the top today. We got 12. No bye weeks, but Thursday night, Sunday night, 2 Monday night games. 2 Monday night games is the shit, by the way. I absolutely love that. Because especially with the 2 screens back, I just throw one on each and let it rip because it's a 7:15 or like a 7 and an 8:15. Love it. And I like that better than the 10:30 because I'm not staying up to finish that one out. But we got Eric Lindquist with us at Eric Lindquist on Twitter. I'm Laffy, Dave Loughran at Laffy_D. I never refer to myself as Laffy, so that was odd.
I never refer to myself as Lindy, so it works out.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, why?
Laffy_D on the X, baby. LOUGHY_D. Give your boys a follow. We'll have some fun this NFL season. How you feeling, man?
Feeling pretty good. Week 1, a lot of things that we got right, a lot of things that we got wrong. That's kind of how it's going to work out. Feel like we got more right on this show, talking through some situations. Obviously, Puka Nacua was the hot item of the evening and finished out with a bang with that one on this show. Some interesting stuff. Obviously, we're both devastated about J.K. Dobbins. I know that we've been pretty highly invested in that Baltimore running game. Hopefully, those Gus Edwards shares in best ball can come to fruition now. But been a pretty interesting week of research trying to get everything caught up.
For sure. And considering I have 33% Gus Edwards in best ball on DraftKings.
You were in a like
195. What was that?
That didn't make sense. You had to.
What was I supposed to do?
Yeah, we love that spot, but I have more J.K. Dobbins than I do Edwards, unfortunately.
I have a decent amount of Dobbins too, because I was getting him in the 8th round and stuff. I know. Right? Like, yeah. It was just where both that was a weird scenario where it was like people didn't want to draft Dobbins, but they also didn't want to draft Edwards. So you had to in either draft, like whether you got one of them or the other, you were happy with it, with where they went.
Yeah, there's certain running games where I think that just makes sense. I mean, we're going to talk about it with the Eagles. I'm sure you talked about it this morning already, Thursday morning.
What a mess that is, huh?
What are you going to do tonight? It's going to be spin the old wheel. Is it Boston Scott? Is it Rashad Penny? It's going to be an interesting one to try to piece that one together, but a lot of running game situations like that in best ball that I thought it just made sense. Get one of the 2 guys, whether that was the Eagles, which it is going to be Kenneth Gainwell season when he comes back. That's unfortunate. Lots of pieces where, you just wanted to be invested there. And I thought the Baltimore one was the most clear-cut one on the board at value. So anyway, anything else from best ball that you're kind of like, yeah, I'm ready to rock now?
Well, I will say yesterday I had a long day and then a long night. I on Saturday, not that you guys care, but I'm going to tell you anyway, so buckle up. I was taking my daughter to swim class, and traffic was like an accident on the one road that you have to take to get there. And she was already in her bathing suit. She was so happy. She's in the back singing. And I had to turn around and I looked at her. I was like, I'm sorry, we can't go to swim. And she just started bursting out crying. She was so sad. She's 2 years old. Like, she thought I was doing this on purpose. I felt so fucking bad, man. And then, of course, I tell my wife and she's like, well, you should have left early. I said, I don't need to hear that right now. So anyway, yesterday I got a makeup class for her. So I finish work. I pick her up from daycare. I was like, you ready to go swimming? So we leave early because it was a 6 o'clock class, that kind of rush hour. And we're making good time. I turn onto the one road that we're on for like 10 miles. It should take 25 minutes to get there. And I get stuck behind an oversized load carrying one of those like prefab houses. And he stopped at every tree. The guy in front of him with the blinking lights cut off the other lane. So he'd slowly go around them. And I just see the time going up because I put it in the GPS just to see time's going up, up. And I text my wife. I was like, I can't do this to her again. Like, it's going to shatter me if I have to tell her for 2 days in the past 4 days that, like, sorry, we can't go. So I get there late. I get her in the pool, whatever. It's fine. But then after, I'm just so stressed out throughout the whole day. After that, I pull over. I said, you're coming in with me. We go in the liquor store and I get something. Daddy got something for himself. So I had a few drinks last night, needed to cool it off. And then I started talking about Penny. Like, if he doesn't play, I'll be distraught, right? With Gainwell out. But then also, I had to do this. I tweeted that if you still use and I wanted to get your thoughts, then we're getting straight into these games. We'll get you guys out of here in a relatively, expedient fashion. Famous last words. I tweeted that if you still use a manual toothbrush, you should be looked at as a Neanderthal. Do you agree?
Correct.
Or disagree?
I have an electric toothbrush, so I'm probably
right?
in the. How do you get like all the way to the back where you need to go nowadays? Once upon a time, people had to get their teeth ripped out because they just didn't take care of things properly. Now you have all the tools to be able to do it. And yet some people, like when you go on vacation, and it's easy to like fold it together and have it situated, but
super easy.
Some people are legitimately just lazy. It's not even that they're Neanderthals. They're just, we are so close. Did you ever see Wall-E?
No, but I know the animated movie.
Yeah, so basically it's a futurist. So Wall-E, the Earth is basically abandoned, and then they launch Wall-E into space where all the people are because they had to get off of Earth. And they're all these lords sitting there in these chairs like this, just sipping on sodas, being
saying
lazy.
That's us?
Yeah, I'm saying that's turning into it, because if we can't take care of ourselves at like the most basic level, which is brushing your teeth with the appropriate instruments, we're probably doomed.
On this. I didn't expect this. You went hard.
I'm legitimately passionate because we've gotten to this point where we are getting, we talked about it a little bit. People are getting soft. People can't take criticism. People can't take anything that is possibly contradictory to their feelings. And at a certain point, you either just say for everybody, you know what, we're going to pat everybody on the back. We're going to sit in a circle, all 9 billion of us on Earth, or we're going to just try to be decent people out in the world, take care of ourselves for once in our lives, and carry on.
Damn, dude, firing me up. Let's go. 12, Jordan uses a manual too.
Jordan found it, my guy. I was going to say, that's exactly what we are going towards. Like, stop it, people. Just brush your fucking teeth with the right thing.
Yeah, let's go. 12 games. We'll kick it off to start this slate. Oh, by the way, super happy to have you guys with us. I know it's a long show. Hopefully you've brought your required necessities and, everything that you'll need to get you through this one. I know it can be long, but some of these games are not going to take a long time either. So hopefully you have your provisions and we get started. Hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. Remember, everything is in podcast form as well. Plus our podcast exclusive shows like the single game 3-max strategy, afternoon slate strategy that we do on Friday. So if you're not subscribed to all of our pod platforms or your preferred one, do that as well. And leave a comment down below here if you're watching or listening after the fact. Kansas City, Jacksonville. Kelsey's limited, so we'll see if he plays. I think there's a good shot that he gets out there. Clyde Edwards-Helaire not practicing with an illness, but that's not a huge deal. KC laying 3.5, 51-point total here. If you want to stack Kelsey and Mahomes, you're going to be paying for him. And on the other side, we've got Ridley. We've got Christian Kirk, who was basically a zero last week. Ingram, Zay Jones had a big game. And then, how about this? I'll let you take both sides because this will be fun. How about the fact, I tweeted this the other day in the thread, that Travis Etienne got a lot of work. But what happened when they were down 21-17 with 5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter against the Colts? Tank Bigsby got both of those goal line carries and scored. So something to keep an eye out for. How are we tackling this game with the highest total on the slate? Good way to start it off.
Yeah, shout out best ball shares of Tank Bigsby. He just got steamed, but because if you saw him play, you're pretty excited about what he's capable of doing. It's going to be more of a timeshare, I think, as the time goes on. We can say that about a lot of these running situations. You got to think it's still going to be a lion share towards ETN. He's still a special player, but really like what Bigsby was able to go out and do there as well. Only the 13 yards on the ground or whatever, but he's just going to be one of those guys that I think can be in there in certain situations where you need protection, and ETN can be more of the valve from a passing game perspective. And he's, I think, the more electric player, but excited to see that tandem. This is just, the game of the week. We're starting now highest total to lowest total like we did in previous iterations of this show. And I think that it's appropriate here. And I think you have to just talk about Calvin Ridley. It's hard to understate how good he was. 8 for 11, 101 and a touch. And it looked like he was going to set the world on fire because he basically did nothing there in the second half. Now, my question for you is, like, if we're looking at getting away from Calvin Ridley in tournaments, because I think in cash, 7,200, he's still one of those targets where I think he's going to end up being one of the highest owned wide receivers on this slate, highest total on the slate here. Christian Kirk feels like the guy that just is forgotten 5,100. And there was a rapport with him once upon a time with Trevor Lawrence here. And we think we know everything after 1 week of football. It was 1 week of football. Mm-hmm. You got to think Christian Kirk just being on the field is still a good sign, no?
I agree. No, look, I'm with you because he's inexpensive. He's like $5,100 or something. He's not gonna be popular. I have no problems with Christian Kirk here. This is like similar to the Philly game tonight where Dallas Goedert saw 0 receptions. Do you really think that's going to be the case every week? Devontae Smith last year in week 1 against the Lions, 0 receptions. They had 4 rushing touchdowns by 4 different players. Devontae Smith wasn't involved. Week 2, or sorry, maybe it was week 3. I can't remember.
Yeah.
Against Washington, he had a huge game. He had a nice game against Minnesota. This could be one of those teams. This year. That isn't to discount Calvin Ridley, though. I think Calvin Ridley is a fantastic player. And I think it was easy, not for a lot of people, but some people forgetting like how dominant he was with Atlanta before the suspension. And let's not forget, Julio still had a little bit of gas left in the tank when Calvin was there. He wasn't the main man there either for a long stretch. So I still like Calvin Ridley. I think that price point is reasonable. I'm not convinced that this Kansas City secondary is going to be nearly as good as they were last year. Getting Chris Jones back, just as far as pressure goes, helps a lot. Huge. But no, I think I'll put it to you this way. I think there's a lot of different ways you can go here. And we'll see if Kelsey plays. We'll see if Mark Andrews plays. Tight end could be a terrible position. Again, last week, the winner of the Millie Maker and I only looked at a couple lineups, but the Millie Maker, and then the $75 entry, I think it was the end zone that was $300K and $50K up top. The winner of both of them had a 3% or 2% Hayden Hurst at tight end. So maybe it's one of those weeks again.
Hayden Hurst was the only one in half point PPR if you were playing FanDuel or if you're year-long leagues. Hayden Hurst was the only guy on the main slate other than Hunter Henry that put up 15 or more fantasy
Isn't that
points.
Crazy?
Everybody else had less, 11.5 or less. TJ Hawkinson was basically, the ADOT was 2.8 for TJ Hawkinson on the week, which is low for anybody who wants to know, but 11.5 fantasy points for him in half point PPR formats. Donald Parham was 4th on the board amongst tight ends. It's such a touchdown dependent position. And I tried to reiterate that over and over last week where, you wanted to just have tight ends that were fit into your game stacks. Now that didn't work out well because you needed the one-off of a Hayden Hurst or a Hunter Henry, or in a lot of cases, Evan Ingram was at the top of a lot of these winning lineups. So yet again, Jacksonville just having exposure to that game stack. He ended up going 5 for 549 with a 9.7% target share that I think has room to grow. So him, Kirk sitting around a 6% target share. Those numbers have to come up, mainly because Zay Jones, that's probably the underutilized, talked about thing from that game. Is Zay Jones going to be like the number 2 here in this spot, 7 for 555? I don't think so. I still think it's going to be Kirk, and I think there's going to be some leveling of that. But Calvin Ridley, he looked like an alpha in preseason from all intents and purposes. Jacksonville talked about that constantly, but nice to see a 10.7 ADOT for Zay Jones, 22.6% target share if you had any investment in him.
Yeah, I think you could go anywhere with this team. ETN's also fine, but I don't want to ignore some of the other good options in that low 6K range and 5K range. I think ETN's fine, and he can break some for sure. But is he going to be is he going to be prominently displayed in the passing game? They didn't last year. And is he going to be the goal line back? So all I'm saying with ETN is I do think there are fewer outs to get there for that ceiling game than people would have liked to have seen, including myself. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, it's extremely fair. So he ends up putting up 21.4. Excuse me. You're not exactly disappointed by anything that he did there. You didn't get the mega ceiling that you're looking for.
No, but what if he got those goal line touches?
Exactly. So there's such a difficult game that we have to play here. 6,900, I think, just price adjusted, it's just not going to be something that I'm all that interested in, even in this game environment. Now, he's 8.7% owned right now. If that number comes down because of some kind of worries that people have, the way that we might be worried about Tank Bigsby just kind of kicking into that workload, kind of digging into that workload, then we can maybe have a conversation. But I think there's just so many other running backs that I would rather click on in other game environments that I feel like, I mean, just the passing expectation you have to have for both of these teams, it's through the roof, and it's too diluted from the Kansas City side. And then on the Jacksonville side, I just have enough concerns that like the ownership might get out of hand because of the game environment for Travis Etienne. And you start talking about 8, 9, 10% of him at 6,900, knowing that it could be a 60, 65, 35 split even. That's probably not good enough for me.
All right, let's just break this down for Kansas City. With two scenarios playing out. If Kelsey plays, obviously if Kelsey plays and he's not limited, like gets back to a full practice on Thursday or something, and today, because he was limited yesterday, feel good about that, fine. What are you doing there? And if he doesn't play, are you going to take chances on this team? Because my biggest concern is that if you look at Rashee Rice, you go, okay, that's nice. He had a solid game, but he only played 20 snaps, 31%. Look at the snap breakdown. Sky Moore, 69% win sprint king. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, 63%. Richie James, 35% of snaps. Rashee Rice, 31. Justin Watson, 29. Kadarius Toney, 25. He made the most of those. And Justin Ross, 9%. That, to me, honestly, it would be Noah Gray probably as my favorite option in this passing game.
Can't believe that I agree with you there. It's just kind of how diluted this is too. I mean, this is just another situation where you're seeing too many guys sharing too many snaps. And it's not like we didn't see this all of last year. And you're going to run into the odd week where MVS has a game like he had in the AFC Championship game where he goes for 25 plus. You're going to run into games where Kadarius Toney catches a football and takes one to the house because he is still an electric playmaker. You just have to kind of get the ball in his hands, which maybe we just hand it off to him and have him do stuff. But it's so difficult for me to want to go and invest. And that's where I'm curious what ends up happening to Patrick Mahomes in terms of how people want to stack him at 8,300. I think you kind of are forcing yourself into double, triple kind of situations because of where these price points are. And you're just hoping for that super ceiling situation. But like, is there a case, and I don't know if I've ever brought this up before, but like, is there a case for like naked Patrick Mahomes in this game environment?
Yes,
just because you do? Because like, this is such a hard thing for me on this slate because I would want to play Mahomes because I feel like most people would have the same concerns I was, especially in like a 3-max format, in a single entry format where you're hand building, looking at stuff. I bet Patrick Mahomes goes very, very overlooked if you don't have Kelsey out there. And then it's such an easy addition if you have Mahomes, Kelsey, where that game stack, like, I don't know if I need anything else to come along with it because it could be Justin Watson on a deep ball. It could be MVS, who was efficient 2 for 2, but like never gets targeted. But
I like Noah Gray for that reason, because if Kelsey's out, that means that the position becomes exponentially weaker already. Mark Andrews could sit. And then what you really need at tight end isn't that much. You're attaching him to Mahomes at a position that's already bad, and he's 3,300.
Yeah, and in 2022, 2023, last 2 years, you go through any kind of numbers, and like this has been a trend where tight end is basically a default position if you're not going to the top. If you're not going to an Andrews, a Kelsey, sometimes a Kittle, there are so many tight ends that can have 1-2 touchdowns, just goal line type situations, get 5 for 45 and a touch, and you're there. Like, the ceiling is just not really there. We've seen Kmet at times. We've seen other guys at times. And I'm not just going to say that week 1 is going to be indicative of what we see going forward, but it's all about the price point of a tight end that allows you to get everything else into your lineup that you want, the game stacks that you want, or in a lot of cases for my lineups, it's bringing the tight end along for the ride in those game stacks. So I do think Noah Gray will be one of my favorite targets in Trevor Lawrence type stacks, where a lot of people will be going to Ingram. I might go double with like a Kirk, a Kirk Ridley or a Ridley Zay Jones type situation and just run it back with Gray. Think that that's a pretty effective way to still get some good things around your lineup.
For sure. And I think Pacheco is not the craziest idea either in that game. It's a 51 total game. And you
saw how bad he was, though. I mean, that's what I'm worried about. He was decent in the passing game, had some involvement there, but one of the more inefficient rushers after the point of contact from last week.
Yeah, it wasn't good, but he's still cheap, and it's a high total game. And if they get to the goal line, anyway, let's talk about Vegas and Buffalo here. 8.5-point dogs are the Raiders. They got to win 17-16 in typical Broncos fashion. Defense holding it down, finding ways to lose. Nothing changes if nothing changes, baby. Even though a lot changed in Denver. That's an old NA saying. Buffalo 46.5-point total here though for the game. They're 8.5-point favorites. Devontae Adams didn't practice yesterday. I assume he'll be fine. Jacoby Myers, however, in concussion protocol, that was such an unfortunate hit. It was clearly accidental, but he got banged up pretty good there. Yeah. He's not practicing. Wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't play. We'll start it with Las Vegas, but then I want to spend some time on this Bills team because people are really down on them. I do think that they bounce back this week.
Agreed. There were some stupid mistakes, but the Jets defense, where would you rank them in the NFL?
One.
Me too.
I would put them maybe the same, maybe them in San Francisco at one, but I think the Jets defense will be the best in the league.
And this is where we got to get like recency bias out of our minds. We're going to talk about it with Cincinnati, I'm sure too, because you didn't leave feeling all the warm and fuzzies watching that Buffalo game. You had the 3 picks from Josh Allen, a lot of mistakes where all to the same guy, which is pretty ironic, but the Stephon Diggs deep ball trying to do a little bit too much, didn't really take what the defense gave him at times, but he's got such a clear alpha in Stephon Diggs. This has always been the 1-2. What I get worried about with Josh Allen stacks is what else do I want? Because it just feels like I'm picking Knox or Kincaid and I'm moving on with my life, or I'm playing a single stack like I think everybody else is here with Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs. Do you feel good about Gabe Davis from last week or like 2022?
No, I mean, I don't, but I guess for me, it's twofold, right? It's kind of a catch-22. On one hand, you could play Gabe Davis and he's just terrible, but then he has those weeks. Ben had talked about it on the First Look show. He also has some of those weeks where he is just the guy and has 2, 65-yard touchdowns. And you're like, oh, I don't hate that I played him. We have him very low owned right now, sub 6K against Vegas. I don't love him. I love the fact that Kincaid and Knox played 88 and 80 or 80 and 88% of snaps respectively, a ton of 12 personnel there. But no, I'll have some Gabe Davis lineups I would imagine if he's going to be this low owned with the implied total they have. Listen, if Buffalo stinks this week, maybe we have to revisit what this team's really all about. But I'm pretty happy going to anyone here. And quite frankly, I think James Cook acquitted himself very well in a very difficult matchup on Monday. You might look at those stats and go, what are you talking about, Laffy? He didn't do shit. He made stuff out of nothing. Like he should have lost yards on most of those touches. I thought he was pretty good. I love the fact that Damian Harris and Latavius Murray were barely used. So even if you're not going stack here, I think James Cook is a very interesting player as well.
Yeah, his rushing success rate wasn't very good in that game. James Cook, people are talking about his inefficiencies, but I look at some of the positives where there's involvement in the passing game. And one of the things that I think you're going to have to do against the Jets routinely because of the pass rush, you're going to have to find safety valves. James Cook, 6 for 4, only 17 yards in that regard as well. But on the field a bunch, as you said, Latavius Murray got all of 2 touches. Deontay Hardy, Damian Harris, I guess, just kind of looking at some of the pieces there. Did he get a rushing touch? Is that what I was looking at for Hardy? Okay, never mind. Looking at Damian Harris there as well. Yeah, just a 1 touch. pretty wild to see that they're not even in the offense. I know that they're going to probably have some goal line involvement, and I think that's kind of my worry about James Cook is
right, because they never got to the goal line.
If he's not catching the ball and bringing it into the house, you have to still expect Damian Harris and Latavius Murray to be coming out there. So then it becomes, is that floor still good enough? Is that floor ceiling combination still good enough at 6,100? I don't know. It feels like he's going to have to bust a big play. So he's going to be very, very ownership dependent for me come Sunday.
That's fair. That's fair. I also wouldn't be surprised if he is the goal line back. I really wouldn't. Or if he isn't. Neither would surprise me, but I wouldn't be shocked if you saw him at the 7 or sorry, at the 4 or whatever, and Cook gets the look.
Yeah. If you're at the 2 and you have Damian Harris and Latavius Murray in your roster and you don't use them, you're probably doing it wrong, though.
Yeah, could be. Definitely possible. We're going to find out. But I think
we didn't have a chance to find out, which is, kind of the unfortunate
I think with the total
part.
in this game, though, I'm willing to take some shots. And then on the other side, but I also don't hate Kincaid either. I don't hate Kincaid. I like Sam Laporta more personally. Just a clear cut tight end 1, played 80+% of snaps, ran routes on like 75% of dropbacks, which for a rookie tight end in his first game is really significant. And I like this spot against Seattle. So that would be my, like, as you're talking rookie tight ends, that's my guy. Mm-hmm. But for Vegas, look, Buffalo got gashed in the run game by Breece Hall, who's just the man. They still have a solid secondary. Jimmy Garoppolo is your prototypical game manager. Like, he is the guy to manage games. He's never going to do anything special. Are you interested in the passing game and Josh Jacobs on the ground?
Josh Jacobs, Devontae Adams. We're going to be paying attention to Jacoby Myers because Hunter Renfrow could get really, really steamed up, and not to sleep on it either, but DeAndre Carter got dinged up. He didn't practice yesterday. So there's a lot of question marks in that Vegas side. Now, Buffalo, one of the highlights I thought of their game was the secondary. I thought Tre'Davious White looked like old Tre'Davious White, even against Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson had to make some unbelievable otherworldly catches in coverage, absolute blanketed coverage.
One of the best catches you'll see in a long time in the end zone.
It was otherworldly, but Tre'Davious White looked good. I think a lot of secondaries are going to look good against Zach Wilson, though, so I want to at least throw out that disclaimer. But there is a chance here that you have a very, very dinged up wide receiving core here from the Vegas side, where we're talking about either Wilkerson or Trey Tucker, or there's guys that could get called up. Yeah, you have Keelan Cole on that Marquise Callaway is on this practice squad too. I have no idea what this wide receiver core could look like if Myers and Carter miss. But Hunter Renfrow is going to probably end up being a piece that we just talk more and more about. I don't know how I feel about it, but different circumstances, same coaching. 3,900. I feel like he would be a really good piece of chalk in the event that you get all of those guys out.
13 snaps, 22%, same as Wilkerson and about the same as DeAndre Carter. That scares me a little bit.
I know, but if they're both, Myers. How many snaps did Myers play?
Right, if he's out, then you have no choice but to do that. Yeah. And the other problem is, like, tight end. Michael Mayer only ran 9 routes on the game. So
that was pretty surprising to me.
Yeah. Anyway, let's talk about this next game. And by the way, I think Josh Jacobs is a perfectly reasonable play if they can keep that close. If it gets out of hand, they'll still probably get some pass catching work. But Buffalo last year and looks like this year, that secondary a lot stronger than that run game. I don't want to say they're a run funnel, but they might be. They might be a run funnel defense this year.
Josh Jacobs playing infinity snaps again. Zamir White, not even a thing. It's
exactly.
It's a volume-based 7,100 play. I think he's a really nice piece for tournaments this week. We'll see. Again, everything's relative to what the ownership's going to be. I do think that he's about as good of a play in terms of what you can expect from volume. 13.3% owned as it stands right now. I would star highlight that one against Buffalo because he's just not leaving the field.
All right, so let's talk about this next one. Sorry, trying to figure something out for this guillotine league fucking waiver system. Stupid.
Isn't that the best?
Yeah, like, God, they never run the first week. Seattle and Detroit, 47.5 point total. Detroit laying 5.5. That spread ballooned after week 1. The look ahead line before week 1 was 3. Now it's at 5.5. I know Seattle dealt with some injuries on the line, but I'm okay going back to some Seahawks plays here. They were horrible against the Rams. They really were. They were terrible, man. But you know what? DK Metcalf is still very good. Kenneth Walker still averaged over 5 yards per attempt, despite them playing terrible football and playing from behind. He's clearly still the guy. Look at the snaps, look at the routes, all of that. Tyler Lockett was a virtual zero. So we could talk him, Jackson Smith and Jigba, all of that. But you know what? There are a couple spots here that I have no problem getting to. This same matchup last year won several people millions of dollars, just full stacking it. Not saying it's the same. Detroit's defense has improved, but I do think we'll see some points in this game for sure, even though the total dropped.
This is my favorite game to stack up simply because Kansas City, we'll see what happens with Travis Kelce, but it's so hard for me to feel like you can nail those pieces down correctly. It's so clear cut what I want to be doing with this football game. And I do think there's actually a contrarian piece or two that you can mix in that can give you the kind of upside that you're looking for. I kind of want to start in the running game now. It's 27% of snaps for Jahmyr Gibbs compared to David Montgomery out there, for the massive lion's share of it here. But everything you saw from Gibbs was insane. And there is that point where 40% of snaps, 45% of snaps, things can leak up that direction. They, put kitty gloves on their number 12 pick. That's not all that surprising to me, but I got to say that he probably was the most electric playmaker that I saw in a very limited amount of time at the running back position. Him and Breece Hall just kind of won the weekend for me in terms of just the eye test. Jahmyr Gibbs, 6,300. I don't think anybody is going to click on him. And if he starts off great, if this game ends up being a shootout in the way Kansas City really wasn't, Jahmyr Gibbs could be on the field trying to put up points, especially if Seattle's able to put up points early in some kind of a capacity, which is yet to be seen. But did you feel the same way I did about Jahmyr Gibbs?
Yeah, he led the entire league in missed tackles forced, and he had 7 carries or 6 carries or whatever it was. Yeah, I don't feel the same. He was wildly efficient. Yards after contact per attempt was elite. Missed tackles was elite. Elusiveness was elite. But I'm still not convinced that you're going to get enough opportunities out of him at 6,300. That's the problem for me. There's a lot of guys that are down in that price range that are actual bell cows, maybe not in the traditional sense from a few years ago, but are going to get the large majority of work.
Yeah. It feels like a spot where, again, Kansas City was playing come from behind football there in some spots. And then I guess Detroit was down. They put up the points and then held them at the end. So yeah, Gibbs being on the field a little bit more, it might be a little bit of a stretch, say 45% of snaps or something of that nature here. But I do think he's the best option to have on the field towards the end of the game in the passing game. If this game's competitive, if they're putting up points like crazy on it, turns into a track meet. So I wanted to at least throw him out there.
And he's good.
Yeah, he's so good. Otherwise, Amon-Ra St. Brown he should just decimate Kobe Bryant. He should just decimate. I'm not sure Trey Brown will necessarily be lining up with him a lot, but Quandre Diggs, one of the worst safeties in football based off that last week, actually 75th out of 78 qualified safeties based on their performance from week 1 at PFF, which that's not ideal. That's somebody that you're really relying on. So outside of the linebacking core here, where Wagner, he's just a freak. I don't find anything on Seattle's defense all that imposing, all that difficult. And this is a real offensive line you've got with the Detroit Lions. They are just stacked up front. I know your boy Laporta as well makes a nice double if you're going to be putting Goff together with Brown and him. But I think it's so easy for me to stay away from Marvin Jones Jr. If I want to be mixing in a little bit of Reynolds and stacks, I think that's easy too. But it's so clear cut to me to just play St. Brown and Laporta a ton with Jared Goff and just see what happens.
Fine with that. Fine with it. I do though. When you're looking at how weak the tight end position is, just the fact that Laporta last week was on the field for as often as he was, did see a 17% target share, which for week 1, for your first ever game, that's good for a rookie tight end. Made no mistakes, wasn't flashy, but caught every pass that was thrown to him. What a way to earn trust with your quarterback. We've seen rookies screw that up in the past, right? And was on the field for 83% of snaps. To me, that is an indicator or really a precursor to what in the future are going to be some big games for him at the position.
Definitely agree. And then to add on top of it, only a 4.2 ADOT. There's room for that to grow too. I think that they're going to get more vertical. It was kind of he was a safety valve for a couple of those plays that, just doing taking what the defense gave him their first game in the NFL. If he's going to be on the field this much in this game environment, it makes all the sense in all the land.
Yeah. And then did you mention Reynolds?
I threw Reynolds out there as somebody that I think can be like an extra piece that you mix into the stacks, but
I think he's fine.
At least it's just so much easier for me to stack up this team and this game than it is the Kansas City Jacksonville one. So I'm just saying, it's like the fact that we even have to talk about Patrick Mahomes naked as an option is so ridiculous and so absurd. Now, I do think Noah Gray, if no Kelsey's out there, is the best. And then if you have Kelsey, well, you're going to be stacking up Mahomes and Kelsey because that's your super ceiling for the game. But I feel pretty confident in saying it's easier to stack up this Detroit team if there's no Kelsey on the Kansas City side.
Yeah, that's a good point. Hey, hit that thumbs up if you guys haven't done so yet. Greatly appreciated. And don't forget, we partnered with Owner's Box to just do some of the best promos you're ever going to see. Not to mention that they've got a $500 first match deposit bonus. If you already signed up and you're wondering how to convert those Owner's Bucks into cash, just click on your avatar in the top right. Then you can convert that into actual money, playable money. If you were wondering, they've got super flex contests, $175,000 contest for week 2, 50K up top. Awesome. No defense. You got multiple flex and a super flex, which means you can play your quarterback there. Really cool strategy. As Ben put it, it's unsolved thus far, which makes it even more intriguing. And you're getting a free week of all of our NFL tools, all of them. This is no longer a situation since we changed up the subscription model where like you get the platinum, but then you have to get this Sims and then you have to get this so you can build lineups. No, you're getting the contest generator, generates the lineups for you. You use that to run your contest sims. So then you have your pre-lineup simulator. We have post-lineup simulator, ownership, player projections, top stack tool, boom bust tool, premium Discord, all of our data, and the lineup generator. For those of you guys who still love that, it's a great tool. All of that 100% free for the entirety of the week. So, not just main slate, afternoon slate, Thursday show. If you do it today, you're getting Thursday showdown. You're getting Monday night showdown. You're getting, well, you'll have all the tools for next week's Thursday showdown as well. So let's throw that into the mix. And if there's never a better time, if there was ever a better time to do it, to take advantage and get as many slates as possible, what about this? Doubleheader on Monday Night Football. You've got a 2-game slate plus 2 massive showdown slates for Monday Night Football. All of that entirely free when you sign up using the link in the description for Owner's Box. Click it. Super easy to sign up and deposit. I did it like a month ago. Get in there. Take advantage of your bonus too. It's up to $500. Minimum deposit of 10. You only have to put 10, but you want to maximize these if you have the means to do so because free money is good. Super flex, big bonus, big contest that overlaid by 20% almost last week. That's huge. And all of our tools totally free for the entirety of the week. Tons of slates this week. Link in the description and in chat if you're not at Owner's Box yet. All right, so let's get into Baltimore and Cincinnati. Man, what a mess for Baltimore. I mentioned in my picks for every game video yesterday on the Odd Shopper channel. Check that out, please. You will enjoy it. Eric's got his coming out tomorrow as well. That's our betting channel on YouTube. I mentioned yesterday, it was like they scattered M&T Bank Stadium with landmines and Baltimore just stepped on all of them. J.K. Dobbins is one of them. And that's the one that everyone hears about, right? That's what everyone hears about, the J.K. Dobbins ones. But it gets a whole lot worse than that, man. Did you see all the guys that they lost? Did you see it? Yeah. Like Tyler Linderbaum, likely out this week.
Yep.
Ronnie Stanley, who was out a lot of last year, he's likely out this week. We might not have Marlon Humphrey still and Mark Andrews, and star safety Marcus Williams also out with a bad pec injury that he might be down for the season. This team went from like, hey, wow, this could be awesome to we're really worried about injuries now.
Yeah, they're in a world of hurt. It's so brutal. If you go through some of the numbers, it's actually kind of worse than you might even expect. They had 15.6 of their rushing attempts that gained 5 or fewer yards in week 1, which was the lowest rate you had in the entire NFL. So it is a pretty wild scenario that you have here. You have no electric playmakers running the football now here in Baltimore, in an offense that really wants to run the football and wants to get away from Lamar Jackson being out there and having to be the guy to do it. Now, Gus Edwards, Justice Hill, they're both 5,300, 4,900. I don't think we necessarily need to, on the road in Cincinnati, go out of our way to try to make them a thing. They are not those electric type playmakers. I don't think that they're going to really be the ones that get involved in the passing game, but I think this is definitely the spot now where Lamar Jackson, if you're going to see this game be one that exceeds expectations, it's going to be the Zay Flowers show. You saw him just do electric things right from the get-go here, got targeted 10 times on the field a bunch, and giving Lamar Jackson a very, very easy go-to number one there without Mark Andrews on the field. Going to be very interested to see what that role looks like with Mark Andrews back there. Isaiah Likely, just diminished role, and I think that just speaks to how good Zay Flowers is, that they don't need that production from him anymore the way that they did at times last season. So it's an interesting one for me, but I have basically no interest in this running game. It's sad how things ended up transpiring there. But the wide receiver spot, I mean, Zay Flowers, he's going to be, I would assume, the most popular run back with Cincinnati stacks.
Yeah, I don't mind Flowers at all. Odell Beckham, underwhelming, but I will point out that he played almost every single snap in that game. So take that for what it's worth. Only 3 targets, but was on the field 92% of offensive plays. That's not nothing, right? He's $4,700. Right. Flowers is $5,000. So obviously he's going to be just talking. If you're in large field tournaments and Zay Flowers gets popular, I don't think he'll be too popular, but if he does, they're basically the same price with Odell Beckham being a little bit cheaper. Yeah, but it all comes down to Mark Andrews. If Mark Andrews is back in this spot, I'll have interest in him for sure. Lamar really did not. I mean, he was efficient, but not the best game from Lamar Jackson at all there. And on the other side, Joe Burrow threw for 82 yards. They punted on their first 7 drives. It was heinous. It
was otherworldly.
I said in my betting video that I was going Browns first half money line at plus money because I think it made sense that Burrow comes out of the gate slow. He'd been out for like 2 months or something like that. Been a while that he was just watching from the sidelines. Finally got a full practice in like Thursday before the first game. I didn't, however, and the reason I took first half and not the whole game, I didn't think it was going to last all. I didn't think it would be that bad all game. Credit to the Cleveland defense, sure, but their offense was, not great. They were okay.
The only team to not get in the red zone in week 1, the Cincinnati Bengals.
Isn't that amazing? It's incredible. How much do you want to go back to them this week against Baltimore? Is this a spot 46.5 point total that you like?
Just a shit ton. This is going to be one of those spots where Joe Burrow, he didn't look right. It was on the road in Cleveland. There was obviously some rust, but was still out there chucking it 31 times. And, they're going to probably get away from running it there on first down. They ran it an egregious amount there on first down. What was the exact number? 29.4% drop back rate, which is just insane for the first 3 quarters of the game. That's obviously because in the fourth quarter, you're passing a lot more. So it's just relative passing expectation. But Joe Burrow, Chase Higgins, I mean, this is just like remember me spot. It's got written all over. Going back in Cincinnati, it's also another week that he basically gets to rehab, gets to take care of himself.
Exactly.
Didn't have anything.
That's how I feel.
Didn't have anything egregious happen to him. Didn't look very mobile, that's for sure. But the offensive line couldn't have been a lot worse. There are some playmakers on that Cleveland defense that made life difficult on the road. And, well, I'm just going right back to the well if nobody else wants to. But it seems like people want to. And that's maybe where we got to be a little bit concerned. And you're just going to want to be paying very close attention to the top stacks tool as we get closer to lock.
Yeah, I think I'm in agreement here. It's a weird spot. We still have them with the highest top stack probability, basically tied with Buffalo. There's just too many good players. It would be shocking if they came out and looked like they did last week or even remotely close to that. I can't
Higgins, imagine. Did you see T. Higgins? 4th in air yards for the entire week, 145 air yards amongst the entire NFL. 0 for 0.
Isn't that nuts?
It was the most insane stat that I ran into in week 1.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I didn't see that, but I'm not shocked. They had to air the ball out too. You look at Pittsburgh, steamrolled. Giants, truly an embarrassment at home. The Chicago Bears, all that hype, just absolute disaster at Soldier Field. Cincinnati, what the hell happened there? Buffalo, say what you want. I know a lot of people want to put them in the same category, but at least give the Jets defense some credit. My God, I know Allen made some bad mistakes and decisions, but that defense is really good. There were so many other spots where Seahawks, what about the Seahawks touchdown favorites, stunk it up in front of the 12th man. The list goes on and on and on. Take from these weeks what you can, but early in the season, don't put so much stock in one week that it changes everything you do going forward. And that's how I feel with Cincinnati.
It's beautifully put. I have nothing to add to it. It's just people are going to think that they know all the things or that the rules are going to stay the same. I mean, shit, while we're sitting here, while you're talking about that, Jahmyr Gibbs, we just get an alert. Jahmyr Gibbs, his role is going to increase going forward. I would hope so. It would be stupid to assume that what we saw there, that they wouldn't want him more involved as the season goes along. But like, there are just so many things where a play here, a play there can drastically change the complexion of a football game. That's kind of what's fun about this, is you get to talk through what you see the football games looking like. This is the perfect combination. NFL DFS is the perfect combination of art and pure data. And we are the data side. We are going to rock the data side every single time, but then we've got to be able to find some nuances to be able to explain things that happened from last week. But I can't imagine people aren't going to be clicking on Joe Burrow doubles because of one bad week, because we just have such a track record of him just showing up, putting up 38 and taking the entire offense with him. So we'll see what that ownership looks like. But Top Stacks tool, something tells me they're going to remain at the top like they are right now.
Agreed. Chargers in Tennessee. Ooh, baby. All right. Tannehill looked bad last week.
Yeah.
3 picks. Saints made him look bad too. That's a good defense, man. That's definitely a good defense. But, the one interception he threw to Hopkins, he got hit, came up short. The other one, he just threw 10 yards short, and that was picked off. He had another interception as well. I will say, though, I was actually encouraged what I saw from DeAndre Hopkins.
Okay. Yeah, I thought you were going to say Derrick Henry, and I was going to say no.
I didn't love the fact that Spears played more snaps, but it was mostly in the passing role.
Right.
But DeAndre Hopkins had a 38% target share, in week 1. 38% target share. Anytime that Tannehill dropped back, Hopkins was running a route. There were some bad throws, but you're also dealing with Marcus Lattimore in a tough secondary, a good pass rush, a good D-line for the Saints. Again, 1 week to me. Tannehill can't be that bad at all, but how about this? Also, DeAndre Hopkins didn't practice yesterday. Keep an eye on it. My assumption is he's a vet and they're just, whatever. This feels like one of those spots where I really like him, but still end up not getting a lot of him because of all the other guys in that price range. If you go back and watch all of his routes and his targets, which I did, he was still getting nice separation against Lattimore. All I'm saying to you guys is he's definitely not washed. This isn't going to be like an AJ Green thing when he came back from injury and they targeted him a lot early on and stopped because he was terrible. I still think DeAndre Hopkins has something left in the tank. You're going to see some big games. I just don't know if it'll be this week, but 45.5 total is actually pretty high for a Tennessee game. Yeah,
against Asante Samuel, Michael Davis, I think he's pretty primed to look pretty good here. I would think at home, getting away from a Lattimore, who I do find to be very good at the cornerback position. This is a good spot. This is definitely a good spot. Now, it's hard to know what to expect from the Chargers because Tyreek Hill is such an outlier. I don't think the secondary can be as bad as what they were there. Derwin James getting beat in some spots as well out at the safety position over the top. And just was a difficult ask against Tyreek Hill. It's going to be for the entire NFL this season. Your doubles are looking really nice in best ball, by the way, there. But DeAndre Hopkins, he's one of the best.
Stack, man.
Yeah. Oh, dude, you're going to smash. But
Zay Flowers. If they're healthy.
Correct. Zay Flowers, 50% target share. Puka Nacua, what a wonderful phrase, 38.9% target share. And then DeAndre Hopkins, 38.7% target share. Really, really like the fact that he is that go-to guy. There's nobody else there. It made sense that, they're going to key in on him in a lot of these spots, but just relative to the rest of the field here, do I feel great about DeAndre Hopkins in a game stack here? As a run back, perhaps for Charger stacks, but it's a tough spot at some of these price points for players in this game. Now, if you get Austin Eckler out, that completely changes everything. But I'm definitely looking at DeAndre Hopkins, 6,700. Pretty, for his utilization, I feel like I'm going to want to have more than the field of him at his current ownership, but we'll kind of see what happens as we continue on. He's just going to be one of the most targeted wide receivers in the NFL. It's just a question of what's that touchdown equity? What does that ceiling look like in the Titans offense?
Agreed. There are going to be some big games. There's no doubt about that. It's just, is he worth paying for this week? I don't think Eckler's going to play this week.
You don't think Eckler is?
No, I could be wrong.
He was on a podcast saying, he has a fantasy football podcast where he was like, I would go pick up Josh Kelly.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I saw that tweet the other day.
We could also pick Kelly up because Kellen Moore clearly wants to run the ball more. Last year, they had the second lowest run play percentage in the league, ahead of only the Bucs. 35% they ran the football. This year, first week under Kellen Moore, 53%. It was like 7th or 8th highest in the league. Eckler had 16 carries. Kelly had 16 carries. Kelly got goal line carries. Both of these guys are going to be involved in the run game one way or another. So if Eckler's out this week, the thing that sucks is it's a tough matchup on the ground for sure, but they want to run the football. And that Titans offense isn't good enough to where you immediately resort back to what you did in previous seasons and throw the ball a ton if you're the Chargers. I don't see the Titans getting ahead out to like a 17-point lead. So I would like Kelly more than I would like Eckler because he's cheaper.
Agreed.
In the sense of like,
that's a wild thing to say.
Eckler's out, I mean.
Right. And you're not going to be alone there. I mean, Joshua Kelly's going to be the most popular play on the slate at 5K in the event that you don't have that there. The one thing I will throw out there, though, Tennessee kind of back to their ways where they're going to be more of a pass funnel. And so I think that creates a very interesting volatility question if Joshua Kelly ends up as chalk. Passing defense-wise, they're going up from last week. I mean, you saw fifth, 69 yards that they gave up there on the ground. And last season, they were number one in the NFL at just pure avoiding yardage given up on the ground, the Tennessee Titans. But they were dead last in terms of passing game given up here, 28th last week amongst the 32 teams, 282 passing yards they gave up. So there's going to be some opportunity here for the Chargers wide receivers here. And then for Kelly, it's just a question of, can he get some goal line carries? Can he get some work in the passing game that can end up paying off for you? But at 5K, a lot of that is mitigated, even though Tennessee's been just notoriously for the last 2 seasons so good against the run.
Mike Williams, Keenan Allen. I'm fading this tight end position at this point, unfortunately. After what we saw last week, Donald Parham, you mentioned it earlier, was not uninvolved. And unfortunately, that came at the expense of Gerald Everett. Everett had like a couple targets or whatever, but he played more snaps than Parham, but they just didn't have to or didn't want to use him. That sucks if Parham's going to be involved as a pass catching tight end. I'm good on that, but Keenan Allen and Mike Williams to me both stand out as really nice plays this week.
Yeah, Donald Parham, nearly a 10% target share in week 1. What are we doing here? XFL's finest, but it's a tough one. I do think I'll still take shots on Gerald Everett, 4,100, 2,900. The opportunity cost of tight end is basically non-existent, and you're just looking for the guy who's going to catch a touchdown or two in your stacks. And so I think I'll still be all right to get to some, but it doesn't make you feel the warm fuzzies. I will say Donald Parham, even 2,900, he was on the field enough. He's involved at the goal line. Well, I mean, obviously he had it was basically a goal line catch that he had there that put him over the top, but I'll have a little bit of him mixed in at 2,900. I'm just having a tough time figuring out what I want to do outside of the Keenan Allen piece. You saw Mike Williams, not really all that involved, had a couple of catches there to not even really salvage. 8.5 in full PPR is not what you're looking for. Quentin Johnson, we got the answer there where he's just not going to be on the field enough to be important here in the first couple of weeks of this season, has to still get more acclimated. They're going to continue to have Joshua Palmer out on the field. That sucks. So it is what it is. I mean, Johnson played 22 of the offensive snaps, 22. That's not nearly enough for me to have any interest there at 3,900 even. So Keenan Allen.
No, and he wouldn't have gotten all of them if Mike Williams didn't leave for a little bit either.
Exactly. So I'm very, very nervous about how to handle the Chargers going forward. I do think that the easiest path for me is the Herbert Allen, because Allen's going to be on the field a bunch still, and then combining with one of Everett and Parham and kind of piecing together teams that way. But looking at the top stacks tool, there's not a lot of, think of how high up they were with Miami last week. They are like middle below bottom of the pack there, 5.9% top stack percentage right now. I guess that's actually near the top there, fifth in our rankings here right now. But it is a very difficult situation to piece together. If Eckler is healthy, if he is going to play here, it's very easy to piece it together after that news. If he ends up being out, because, well, Kelly will be the most popular play on the slate. And then you're going to have to just figure out what you want to do with one of Allen, or if you're going to have Herbert in those game stacks. I just don't think I have any Tannehill interest. It's going to be Hopkins. And then just to round it out, Derrick Henry. It's Derrick Henry in a game script where they're up at home. This could just be like a remember me spot, but you can't feel good about it, right?
No, but I'm also not, like, I don't look at week one as the be all end all either. You know,
right.
I still think that Derrick Henry is going to break off some big plays. And I still think there's going to be those games where he has 28 carries. Like, you know, it's just the way it is. Last week, that wasn't the case. And I have a lot of respect for that Saints defense and that defensive line as well. So I have no issues with Henry. He's not my favorite play this week. And you can go back and watch the First Look show and the ownership show on Wednesday. We break it down position by position, but I still think he's perfectly fine. He would probably be my top play for Tennessee, just because you don't rely on Ryan Tannehill to get you the ball. I'd love to play Chig Okonkwo. Someone mentioned it earlier.
Boy.
But it was Bug Boy that said Chig was wide open for a touchdown and Tannehill overthrew him. Yeah, down the sideline. Dude, Chig is super athletic and he can get open. So maybe you take some random shots on him in large field. By the way, Bug Boy, what does that name mean? Do you love insects, or like, were you told you resemble a bug?
It could be a
Dude,
beautiful
I
bug,
went
a
down
ladybug.
the most insane Reddit rabbit hole the other week that kept me up till almost midnight.
Tell me more, Josh.
What's that?
Tell me more, Josh.
No. He's in like sports Reddit.
Oh, okay.
I was on what is this bug Reddit. And it was, it is such a sick subreddit. It's just people posting pictures of all of these wild bugs and insects. And then like one of them's like, yeah, this bit me. Can anyone identify what this is? And all of the comments are like, yo, go to the ER now. It was crazy. Another one's like, yeah, I found this here. Can anyone tell me what it is? They're like, I thought it was this, but I think it's just a bed bug, so I should be good. And people are like, no, it is a bed bug, and your life is ruined now. Because bed bug infestation, apparently, I've been learning a lot, friends, is horribly bad. Like, you have to just burn everything, basically.
Yeah. As a new homeowner, I don't want to hear any of this, because I like to think that there aren't. The thing is, if you have trees in your yard, you're inevitably going to have rodents. You're going to have insects. You're going to have things that just show up. But like, the last thing I would want to do in my free time is go down a rabbit hole trying to figure out what random bugs and insects are, because that's just terrifying to me. I'm pretty good with like snakes, pretty good with other things. I'm not very good with the old bugs.
Me neither. I hate them, but what a fascinating stuff. I recommend all of you take a gander when you've got some free time. It is pretty fun.
You're a cultured man, Lofty.
What's that?
You're a cultured man.
I try to be, bro.
Yeah.
Bug Boy says, I'm just an MF with huge eyes. See? He looks like a bug.
Just an MF.
He embraces it. Yeah.
Jordan Klein.
It. Yeah. Yeah, well.
But they're accentuated when you get excited or when we say something ridiculous.
Jordan, open your eyes as far as you can. Is that as far as they go?
Yeah, that's still pretty wide. You're underselling yourself.
Yeah, I don't know. Do you? Yeah, here, grab a screenshot of me and Eric going. There you go. We'll find that on some subreddit. It'll just be R. Never mind. That would have been all right.
Oh, man.
Let's talk about
callback jokes are the best jokes.
Chicago and Tampa Bay. Chicago 2.5-point dogs at Tampa, 40.5-point total. No real injuries to speak of. They got decimated by the Bears by the Packers last week. And I'll tell you what, brother, our boy Rachaad White and this offense in general, not very good. But the fact that he saw 17, the fact that he saw 17 carries and 2 targets, 19 looks in that game. All right. 19 looks. not bad. 79% of snaps. Sean Tucker and Chase Edmonds played 10 and 8 snaps respectively, 15 and 12%. I think you still got another. And by the way, it's not like Sean Tucker and Chase Edmonds were stellar with their opportunities either. This Bears defense has to prove something to me before I don't want to target running backs against them. They're favored at home, the Bucs. Rachaad White is 5,500. I'm not saying I'm going to go insane on him, but I would imagine I'm going to get back to a little bit of Rachaad White here.
Oh, I think I'm going to play some Rachaad White. I think I'm also going to be mixing in some Sean Tucker. I don't know, 4,300. He's at least on the board for me. Now, Rachaad White, 2.3 yards per carry on the ground, 17 for 39. That's not exactly getting it done, but on the field a bunch. As you said, this Bears defense, I think they are just going to give it up in all natures to running backs. You saw Aaron Jones go completely berserk. No real answer for him. But I guess for me, it comes down to like in week 2, we saw him be inefficient, being Rachaad White. And we saw multiple times where it's like, hey, what was the Williams with the Rams, or we just saw so many situations where he thought we knew exactly what it was. What if they decide Sean Tucker is going to be their better course of action, who, he didn't do much better, 5 for 15, averaged 3 yards per carry on the ground, but was involved in the passing game a little bit. It was just kind of like 10 snaps, but that's going to start trailing up. Probably going to be more of like an early slate type play, 4,300, that just gives you a completely different build. But I know Ben Ross has talked about his talent before. You could see that snap share work itself up as he gets acclimated to this offense as time goes along. But no doubt about it, Rachaad White, start highlighted, 5,500. His involvement has to be that has to be the main calling card going up against the Bears here. It's probably the only skill position player that I'll be invested in any kind of a prominent way in this game.
I like Mike Evans a little bit too.
Okay.
I like the chemistry that Baker showed with him. This is also a very good matchup for Mike Evans specifically. I think that the only problem here is, what does the ceiling look like for these Tampa Bay receivers at this point with Baker Mayfield under center? But if you were asking me, hey, if you want to target anyone in the passing game, not just the rushing game, it would be Mike Evans this week. I think he's still a pretty fine play.
It's just to speak to how bad the Vikings defense is going to be. Baker Mayfield was the 5th highest graded quarterback in PFF for week 1. I'm so beside myself with my football team, how bad they're going to be. I think it's really hard to take anything away from the passing game there. But as you said, the Bears defensively, it's not like they had any answers for anything that the Packers were trying to do. And they were going up against a dusty wide receiver core of guys who were dinged up. Romeo Doubs looked just fine to me. But obviously no Christian Watson there, didn't even matter because of what they were able to do with Aaron Jones, moving him around the field, involvement in the passing game and running it here. Now, Mike Evans going up primarily against Tyreek Stevenson, who, was a rookie. I don't know what we can expect for him going forward. He was actually okay. Got a decent enough grade from week 1, but pretty big unknown there going up against Mike Evans, a vet who definitely 10 targets, nothing you can't besmirch there. It's just, I don't know what this game environment looks like. It feels like it's going to be a lot of Rachaad White for me, and it feels like it's going to be Tampa Bay defense for me. I don't know that this is really a spot that I want to be making any kind of a major stand on. But Mike Evans, I don't mind the shout out simply because it's Mike Evans, and we're going to see that price come down if the passing volume just isn't there in this offense. So him, Godwin, 62 and 6K now respectively. Don't really mind either.
Yeah, me neither. And a lot of people in chat saying they had a good amount of White last week. He wasn't good. Yeah, he wasn't. But You know what? At 5,400, if I told you could lock in 19 looks, you'd probably go back to the well there. It's just, I think both of us said, we have no idea if he's going to be any good, but that many almost 20 opportunities at 5,400 against the Vikings, I'd run that back. Mm-hmm. So, and it's a good matchup against Chicago too. The Bears, on the other hand, do you worry that with this very stout linebacking core that they have, the Tampa Bay Bucs, right? Because we know they do. David and White, those are some good players. Mm-hmm. And then Winfield, who's very good against some of these mobile quarterbacks. Do you worry that Justin Fields could have a relatively tough time finding space and running in this game?
Yeah, I think Tampa Bay's defense is really, really good.
Me too.
I thought the
linebackers.
Yeah, I mean, part of why I like the over, and it didn't obviously come to fruition for Tampa Bay and Minnesota, is mainly because Minnesota's just going to throw the ball at an ungodly clip this season. Yep, I was on the over of that.
Me too. We were dead from the jump, but I liked the over in that game as well.
Well, nothing like 2 fumbles inside the 8 for the Vikings.
I know there were chances. There were for sure opportunities. Yeah.
Yeah, our defense is so bad that they're just going to lead to shootouts. Today, it's just kind of a different thing because I do think the Eagles just absolutely slam them. Nothing like being full out, decked out in Vikings gear and being that pessimistic. But such is life.
Will you stop doing this, please? Because you're pulling this. You're trying to pull this reverse shit where it's like, oh, I think they're going to be bad, and I see what you're doing, and I absolutely hate it, dude. That's what I'm supposed to do. You know, Eagles.
If I didn't have a punchable enough face already, you know.
Eagles really didn't deserve a win this week. Last week, they had an easy schedule last week. You know what? I'm not buying in to the Birds this week or any week. We'll see what happens, but you know, hope for the best, expect the worst.
They'll be just fine without Bradbury. They're going to win 24-7 again.
I had to balance you out.
That's fair. That's fair.
Do you like any Bears plays this week?
Do you know the highest fantasy? Don't look. Do you know the highest fantasy performer from the Bears in week 1 on DraftKings?
It was probably Roschon Johnson.
It was Roschon Johnson. Well done by you.
He got a lot of work in that game.
Got a lot of work. He had a 20.6% target share.
Yeah. Also some garbage time. So that's what scares me, because Fields was still out there, but then Johnson came in and got that garbage time touchdown at the end. That's where he got both of his goal line carries as well. So I'm a little bit confused on what this backfield looks like if it's a close game.
Yeah, and I don't take a lot away from week 1 for the Tampa Bay side where, yeah, they held the Vikings to 41 yards rushing, but I don't think the Vikings are going to rush like at all. Madison's value is completely dependent upon his passing game involvement. And then just the Vikings are going to throw at a crazy, crazy clip until we try to unload Kirk Cousins to the Jets for a first. We'll see what happens.
Oh, that'd be smart of the Vikings.
Be very smart of us. Just, you know, try to play GM over here. If we just walked ourselves into Caleb Williams, I'd be okay with it.
Yeah, Cousins is not winning you a Super Bowl.
He's not.
You know what I mean? Like, you can have some great, really fun games with the Vikings.
Yeah, really, and Cousins could totally win a Super Bowl with the Jets. He's exactly what the Jets need.
100% agree. Yep. Because if the Vikings had a stout defense, Cousins would be more than perfect. Yeah.
Perfect.
Anyway, any interest in the Bears? I want to move this along a little bit.
Roschon Johnson, not really. Tarnell Mooney, the most targeted, the seven targets, 4 catches there. That doesn't make you feel very good. DJ Moore, 2 for 2. What are we doing here? DJ Moore, you're trading your number 1 pick and you're only throwing the fucking ball twice. Are you kidding me?
This is the same team, though, that traded a second for Chase Claypool after Claypool was drafted in the second and was a bust in Pittsburgh.
They have made some of the worst decisions that you could possibly imagine. I'm okay with it because I'm in the NFC North. My team's in the NFC North. I don't need another good team in the NFC North. Detroit's coming on. Green Bay looks like they've got a decent enough squad this season, but definitely not feeling good. If you're a Bears fan waking up here knowing that Justin Fields is going to have to create a lot with his legs to return any type of value for you. He's in a really tough spot here going up against a Buccaneers. Not only the secondary, but like they've got an absolute unit there on the other side of the defensive ball. You've got Devin White playing the linebacking position. He is an absolute monster out of LSU. I don't know what to tell you. It's one of those, like, could Justin Fields just have one of those electric spots? You bring Cole Kmet at the tight end position, which is weak along for the ride, sure, but you don't feel like this is going to be any spot that you want to be over invested in.
Kyle Hecht, these guys, a couple of them were asking, like, who would you run back with a Tampa stack? Who would you run back for Chicago? I think I'd probably, personally, I think I'd still do DJ Moore, but I don't love the run backs here. Maybe Kmet, but like, is that even worth a run back is the question. You know what I mean? Is that even worth the run back at the tight end position? So
it's tough. For me, what's tough is Cole Kmet's like 4,400, which isn't exactly free at the tight end position. You have Kelsey, you have Andrews, you have Waller. They all have the Q tags next to them. This position could look very, very different, but like Higbee's my favorite tournament guy to be getting to right now at current ownership that we're looking at, mainly just pure volume based and what we're expecting against a really good stout San Francisco team. And then Cole Kmet there for 200 less. I just expect the volume to just be there for the Rams in such a prominent way week in, week out. We're like, I have no idea what we're going to get from the Bears in game scripts where they're up by a score. I got to think that they're going to keep it primarily on the ground, try to do some short yardage type situations. And then it's just such a limited ceiling for anybody outside of Fields. And then on the Tampa Bay side, White, yeah, he was inefficient, but I think it's just more of a volume play for me. And then taking tournament shots on guys. I really don't see myself playing stacks of this game at all.
Agreed. Green Bay and Atlanta. Oh, guys, two things. One, we're almost at 100 likes. Thank you. Appreciate that. We'll get there. This show builds as the week goes on. It's your one-stop shop for everything you need for every single week in the NFL. But also, free money opportunity with Caesar Sportsbook. Click that link in the description. Turn your ad blocker off to make sure it works if you have one, or in the chat. $50 into $250. Can't beat that. You're getting 5 individual $50 bonus bets by throwing $50 in. Betting takes a minute to sign up, get verified, deposit, throw 50 down on whatever game you want. If you win, you still get your bonus bets. This isn't one of those things where it's like, oh, if you lose, we'll give it to you. No. Even if you win that $50 bet, what I would recommend doing, I would recommend putting it on the Atlanta money line as we get to this game right now.
Ooh.
And you can get it at a little bit of plus money. So you put 50 down, you more than double up on your wager, and then you're getting $250 in bonus bets. Do yourself a huge favor, because see, DraftKings and FanDuel have good sign-up bonuses too, but you're already over there. And they don't care if you're not on their sportsbook yet. If you're on their DFS site, you don't get that luxury. But here on Caesars, trying to compete with the rest of the world in online sports betting, obviously the brick and mortar, they got it nailed down. But in online, it's a little different story. They're doing 50 into 250. It's very good. It's free money. So two things if you're a new sports bettor, what you should always do. Eric knows this. It's the same thing with all the pick'em sites like Prize Picks and everything else. Two things you should always do. One is sign up at as many sports books as possible. Or I should say there's two reasons to do it. Sign up as many sports. One is because you're going to get all these bonuses. You could spend like $60 and end up getting $800 in bonus bets. So now you're winning without winning, even if you lose out of the gate. Two, it's because you never want to be on one single solitary book where you try to bet, you bet a game and you lose by the hook and you go, damn, I should have won that. And then it turns out that at a book right across the street, or 2 clicks, really, you could have got that line without the hook, right? Or you could have got it a full point different, where now you win. Always shop the odds, always take the free money. That's the two ways to do it. Caesars 50 into 250. Take advantage of those bonus bets. Must be 21 years or older to gamble. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, please just call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. All right. Green Bay, Atlanta. I'll tell you, when I said I don't think Eckler plays, he's dealing with a personal thing as well as the ankle injury. I think Eckler has a better chance of playing than I think Aaron Jones does. That's my take for this week.
All right.
I think Aaron Jones downplayed the severity of this and would not be surprised if he misses this week. I think both him and Christian Watson miss week 2.
Well, hamstring for Aaron Jones, never a good thing. That's
so
for
good
sure.
Too.
And
it sucks.
I know.
So
AJ
good.
Dillon. Well, I mean, it's okay for my NFC North implications, but also I think I want to lose this year. I don't know what I want anymore. We'll find out after tonight. Yeah, if we win tonight, then I'm going to be like, I'm going to be flip-flopping one direction or the other. It'll be either trade Cousins or like we're all in this season. I don't know where to go with myself. But
is Aaron Jones not one of the most underrated as far as like household names go? Is he not one of the most underrated running backs in the league?
Coach of the Cowboys, quickly for me, McCarthy, right? He was my favorite coach of all time in the history of the Green Bay Packers because he buried Aaron Jones. It was my favorite thing ever. Aaron Jones is one of the best running backs that I've ever seen play the position. You get these 3-4 touchdown ceilings, his involvement in the passing game, the things that he's able to do. He's so shifty. He has electric playmaking ability at multiple levels, and he's generally been pretty durable. And maybe part of that is because of limited workload situations from time to time. But yeah, I'm probably with you. If he's going to be out here, 5,900, they really preemptively priced up AJ Dillon going up against the Falcons here. And I don't know what I will be doing. I do prefer a 5K Josh Kelly. So it probably has more to do with the price than it does anything else, but I am not an AJ Dillon stan. 13 for 19, 1.5 yards per carry on the ground, But this is just kind of the story of A.J. Dillon's time with the Packers. He's just routinely been an inefficient runner of the football. I have no idea what to make of the fact that he was actually targeted in the passing game last time out, but they had that pretty much intact. And then Aaron Jones goes out, A.J. Dillon comes on, and that's going to be the situation here. Do they have anybody else that they trust back there? Patrick Taylor sure ain't it for some kind of a long period of time. Did have 5 carries in that game, and you do expect it to be a lot of A.J. Dillon, but a 40.5 total on the road in Atlanta, it is a dome. A.J. Dillon would be a really frustrating piece to figure out what to do with in the event that you're right and Aaron Jones is out.
I don't think Jones plays, and I really don't like A.J. Dillon.
Either.
I think you'd have to consider him, but you know what the problem is? A.J. Dillon is not $5,000 like Kelly is. He's $5,900. He's probably priced where he should be if he was a starter, you know? That's what I don't like about him. Jordan, by the way, looking pretty svelte, dude. I saw you come back for taking a lead. Hard work paying off, brother. Yeah. What? I thought I saw you get one in yesterday or something. I thought I got an alert. I got you. Looking good, man. Keep it up.
Crushing. You want to go drink tonight at Foreman's for the Eagles game? We got a table. No. Do you have other options?
That's not true at all. Are you serious? Adam told me when he starts working out, it helps him limit his drinking. And I explained to him that I work out so I can justify my drinking. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean, Lofty.
That's why
Chicago times, bro.
That's why I go and walk and hit the gym, because then I can be like, I deserve this.
Mm-hmm. Take my dog out for a nice hour and a half walk at night, do some jogging, and then you get back, you sit in the back patio and you let it rip, man. Dude, it's the best.
You soak it up and you go, you know what? No harm, no foul, baby. I'm loving it. Hey, if Jones and Watson are both out, do you want to get to some Jayden Reed? What about some Musgrave had a nice snap share, route participation rate. I think he would actually be viable in this game. I do think Atlanta's defense has made enough improvements to where they're not just going to be shit this year. Like Jesse Bates is a stud, man. He's a real stud.
Very good.
They actually started to generate some pressure on the quarterback last week. This is an Atlanta team that for 2-3 straight years was dead last or at the bottom in the cellar when it came to pressure rate and being able to get pressure and sack the quarterback. So I'm not sleeping on him. Someone said it sounds like Lafay's a closeted Atlanta fan. I'm not. I just think that they're going to be pretty bad for fantasy for a couple of reasons. They're going to run the shit out of the ball. I'm not saying Drake London has no opportunities every week, but they're going to run the hell out of the ball. They're going to try and grind the game to a halt. And I think the defense is going to be just good enough to where Atlanta is not forced into throwing and changing the game script. And also, they have a legitimate timeshare in the backfield between Tyler Algier, who saw 3 goal line carries last week, and Bijan Robinson.
Mm-hmm. I love Bijan Robinson. I love him so much.
Me too,
just
but
from a
Algier's
real life
not
perspective.
going anywhere, dude. I'm telling you, not this year.
Yeah, he's good. He's just functional. Tyler Algier is functional for Atlanta. Robinson. That's for sure.
I'm just saying, I don't think it's going to be like, week 3, Bijan Robinson's getting 25 carries and Algier's getting 3. I don't think it's going to happen.
No, I'm with you. I think that Tyler Algier is just going to constantly be that guy that can get some goal line work and then can do some other things. Obviously, it was goal line work for Bijan Robinson for the passing, the catch that he made, the ridiculous play. But Tyler Algier, a lot of work, 15 carries, 2 touchdowns, involvement in the passing game, 5,500. Probably not going to be a spot where I want to be invested now because we've seen that tag come up, and it's just, well, it is what it is. It went up all of $100. It's going to be the same role, but I would prefer Bijan Robinson if you try to reach for like a super ceiling here. 6 catches on 6 targets. That is great stuff from him. I think the difficult part for me is like Drake London, Kyle Pitts, completely uninvolved, completely broken on that side. And I do have Green Bay interest with Romeo Doubs, Jayden Reed, both identical 18.5% target shares. You saw a really high ADOT for Jayden Reed, 3,400. Very curious where the field ends up landing on him, because it takes one of those deep shots to really work out for you. Only a 7.8 yard ADOT for Romeo Doubs, despite the fact that he's the guy who found the touchdowns and 18.6 fantasy points. Good stuff overall if you're if you're a Packers fan there, seeing Romeo Doubs be healthy and be that active. But Atlanta, really tough for me to have any involvement because that is a diluted backfield. 7,900, 5,500, not exactly free. We're going to get some cheaper running backs that show up, even possibly on the other side of this game with A.J. Dillon. And then what are we doing here with Kyle Pitts, Drake London? I mean, just complete zeroed. 18 pass attempts.
Yeah, and guess what, dude? 50% of them went to the running backs. 6 to Bijan, 3 to Algier. The only wide receiver with a reception was Mac Hollins. You can't go to him right now. If things change, fine, but like they don't want Ritter to throw the football. They don't want him to throw the ball. And they might not need him to throw the ball much. The Packers' run defense last week looked fine, but they had a commanding lead, and Chicago abandoned the run. If Atlanta, who has a much better offensive line than the Bears, commits to the run this week, you're going to see a lot of that again. And I think that is the recipe to win. That's why I think Atlanta, as slight home dogs, can win this game for sure.
See, I think for me, the thing I'm paying attention to, Watson, I think there's a chance that he can get back. He sounded like he was pretty close last week. I think Christian Watson getting back on the field can just add another playmaker into this mix. Now, if he doesn't play, if Aaron Jones doesn't play, Green Bay is going to be a team that we have a lot of interest in to try to find some salary savers, some guys that mix and match. But there's nothing I feel good about from a run back perspective. It's kind of back-to-back games that we've talked about, both the Chicago, Tampa Bay one and this one, that I have individual pieces, interest here or there, but like such a difficult spot considering Atlanta, it's a dome team. We used to be stacking them up all the time with Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, and those days are just kind of gone. You're going to see Arthur Smith run the ball, tons of totes for Robinson, tons of totes for Tyler Algier. Probably going to be just a gross game outside of trying to take shots on the value pieces around on the Green Bay side.
For sure. I would, if I had to put odds, I'd say 70-30 that Watson is out. And
interesting again. Okay.
Well, he said, like, they said he wouldn't commit to taking the field in week 2. He said, obviously there's a better chance than last week, but then he said he's just taking it day by day. Those type of comments usually are foreboding. I'd put Jones at like 60-40 not to play, but I think he has a better chance than Watson. That's just one man's opinion. I'm not a doctor.
Fair.
But also most of these fantasy doctors are saying the same shit. Like nobody knows, man.
You're a chiropractor. Stop it.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Why is a dentist telling me whether or not this guy's ankle is going to heal up in time?
It's like a hangover.
Indy and Houston. I want to speed up some of these games, so let's do that.
We'll get there.
I think Houston wins. Also, by the way, I think they win at home.
I do too.
Plus, even if you don't, would you why do we want to bet on the Colts right now? As slight road favorites, 2 rookie quarterbacks. C.J. Stroud, I think, was fine last game. It was a really tough matchup. He didn't make any mistakes. He wasn't great, but he didn't make mistakes. Double-digit targets for Nico Collins and for Robert Woods. Dalton Schultz is questionable. Noah Brown is on the IR. I'm telling you right now, if I'm playing a bunch of lineups, I will take some shots on Tank Dell. I think I will.
Yes.
I think he can break some. I think they can use him on some short yardage stuff where he can create yards on his own. And as a Houston team, you need that. On the other side, Anthony Richardson is fine. He's off the injury report. No need to worry there. Maybe you get to some Pittman. This is where you and I might disagree. Deion Jackson was so bad last week. I mean, so bad. Lost 2 fumbles, couldn't generate anything. Just awful. Evan Hull hit the IR in his first game. That stinks. 5th-round rookie. And then it's like Jake Funk. But Zach Moss is not on the injury report. Full practice participant. I think he immediately becomes the number 1 in Indianapolis. And if that's the case at 4,700 or whatever he is, I don't mind getting a little exposure to a cheap running back there against a Houston team whose secondary might actually be better than we think. They got some good young guys. Stingley could take a step forward. Jalen Petrie? Some of these guys, not saying they will be, but I think they could be better. The run game, I assume, is still going to struggle. I don't hate Zach Moss. What are you doing on both sides of this game?
I love the Zach Moss shout out because I was thinking this morning as I was kind of going through my process where Zach Moss is probably relative to ownership, my favorite running back play on the slate, 4,700. Now, you're going to probably run into Josh Kelly 5K. You're going to run into A.J. Dillon 5,900. You're going to have other value pieces. And I'm not saying cash. I'm not saying anything remotely close to that. But at the tail end of last season, they went out, they got Zach Moss. They gave him some work towards the end of last season. And outside of like one inefficient game there against Minnesota, he averaged 6 yards per carry, 5.4, 4.9, and 6.3 in 4 of his 5 games that he had there with the Colts. I find him to be a very intriguing piece coming off of an injury, the broken arm that like can't believe that he's already back playing football. But this is a Houston team for years. For years has hemorrhaged yardage on the ground to running backs. And Anthony Richardson is going to be a quarterback I have a lot of interest in fantasy all season long. 6.1% ownership, no problem playing him naked, playing him alongside Kylan Granson, who saw a decent enough target share and is mainly just another cheap tight end to be pairing guys together with. But I like to think about things from like a game stack perspective and from an individual player perspective where it's like, well, what does that ceiling look like? I think Zach Moss does get a lot of these touches. That was the whole point of playing Deion Jackson last week, was like, I didn't think Evan Hull or anybody else was going to be getting that much work. Deion Jackson didn't do anything with the work.
He got the opportunities. He just stunk.
He just stunk. And, you know, it was the right play. I don't have any regret about having him, you know, in north of 10% of lineups. But Zach Moss, he will be in north of 10% of lineups if he sits at 1.7% ownership at 4,700 against a Houston rushing defense that is just so abysmal. There aren't really words for it.
Agreed. He'll be more than 1.5 for sure by the time it locks. But
I would think so.
Not a lot. You don't think so?
I don't know what people are going to do there, because we're going to get a 35% owned piece of chalk against Tennessee for Josh Kelly. And I find that to be, if he gets steamed up to that level and to the level that I think he could, I'm going to be getting away from that in a hurry, because Tennessee does freak me out. You just saw what they did against Jamal Williams. How does everybody feel about that piece of chalk that went amok? So yeah, I'm right there with you. Zach Moss, like I'm right there with you.
I'm with you. Quickly close out Houston if you have anything else on that side of it.
There was a report. Yeah, you brought up Tank Dell. They had the report that they wanted to get him more involved. Saw that came through.
They should.
He should. He was handpicked by CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud had post-draft conversations when he was being interviewed, saying that I asked for them to go get Tank Dell in the draft because, you know, I really like him. I think that our skill sets play well, and we don't necessarily have that kind of a player on the roster. I would agree with that. He's an electric, quick player who can make things happen.
Exposure to Tank Dell, dude.
Oh, buddy. How about my exposure to Nico Collins, which I'm pretty happy about? Third in air yards on the week, 11 targets, 80 catches. You're not going to run into a lot of touchdowns, but a 25.6% target share felt like a remember me spot. Robert Woods getting targeted 10 times was a little bit wild to me. And I don't know what I think about that, but you're going to be running into game scripts where Houston's got to air it out. CJ Stroud, as much as I don't like him here, their running attack is, you know, Dameon Pierce, who wasn't on the field all that much, and Devin Singletary, you know, getting mixed in more than people might have thought. You're going to get some extra work from Mike Boone. Shout out
to pass catching back last week.
I was going to say that made no sense, but it happened. And now, well, you're just better off taking CJ Stroud. I do think this is a pretty decent spot to be taking shots on the Stroud, Collins, Woods, or Woods, Dell type stacks, mainly because the Colts, I don't think they're going to have a whole lot in terms of defense either on the other side. Jacksonville was able to do whatever they wanted, only gave up 237 yards passing, but anybody watching that game, there were some dynamic plays made by ETN. There were some different things where it kind of opened up that game in a weird way where it didn't shoot out as much as I thought there even could have been. And they were still winning Trevor Lawrence stacks. So I do like CJ Stroud as kind of your under the radar type quarterback to be stacking up at like what? He's going to be 1-2%. That seems fun to me.
Unearned. Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
San Fran and the Rams. All right. I'm not going to the Rams backfield. I'm getting that out. We don't need to talk about that.
What the fuck though?
What's that?
What the fuck? Nobody talked about Kyren Williams all offseason. Nobody.
It's Sean McVay. Nobody should be surprised either.
53 snaps for Kyren Williams. I'm surprised.
3 goal line carries. No, I'm saying nobody should be surprised that Sean McVay. Well, you know, the funny thing is, though, Akers still had 22 carries. I get hammered for this every time I say this every year. He's not good. Like, I don't think Cam Akers is good. That's why. I don't think he's that good, dude. I really don't.
How many running backs have ever really come back from an Achilles and been like, really, really good though? Like
but it still makes him not good.
Yeah. I mean,
you can't be like, well, he would have been good if it wasn't for the Achilles.
No. But what I'm saying is that like at the tail end of last season, maybe they just gave him a ton of work because they didn't care about his well-being.
Maybe I don't. Yeah,
That's an option, and maybe we looked at those fantasy performances because he was the guy you needed kind of in the fantasy playoffs. I know he had that ridiculous Week 16 game against Denver that really took it over the top. Serviceable enough against the Chargers, Seattle. He was a piece of DFS chalk, just that went berserk every week and drove me nuts. But Cam Akers, 5,700. I have no desire to click on that in any way, shape, or form. I think Kyron Williams, 5K. I mean. You're not going to click on him at all.
Am I? No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't really want anyone at all. I don't want Puka Nacua. I don't want Tutu Atwell.
I do.
I don't want Tyler Higbee. I probably don't get to much. Maybe I will. Maybe it just turns out that I do. But I think a lot of last week was a mirage. It was
on the road in Seattle. I know Seattle's secondary is not going to be very good, but it was one of those. It was one of the more wild outcomes I thought of the weekend. I would say that would be right behind the Giants game where it was like, what did I just watch? That was weird to see Matt Stafford. It was kind of a Matt Stafford remember me game. When healthy, the guy can put up numbers. He can do things through the air. And Cooper Kupp being out, we all thought that it was going to be an issue. And Puka Nacua, he's going to be popular this week. He's going to be, he's the most picked up wide receiver. Brought him up last week. I had a lot of him in DFS. Didn't matter because I just had too much Jamal Williams, too many other problems that were mistakes in hindsight. And well, there were mistakes as soon as I clicked the button, but Puka Nacua was not one of them. But now 4,900, I'm very curious because there's nowhere for 15 targets. Second most targeted wide receiver on the board all of week one. There's nowhere for those targets to go for a ceiling. And if there's an inefficiency at all going up against San Francisco, this could be a 15-20% piece of chalk that you're bypassing the field if he does fail. So I totally understand that. That's where I'm going to be paying very close attention.
I do understand. I do understand where you're coming from. And like, I'm more than happy to be wrong on this and change my mind, leading up to Sunday.
Tutu Atwell going to go a little bit under the radar, though. 6% in our current projections. He's 1/3 of the ownership, got 8 targets, 119 yards. He was the guy. He actually played at a Power 5 school, actually put up gaudy numbers in college, and can be kind of a bell cow wide receiver, for lack of a better term. But for me, the whole investment was against Van Jefferson. The fact that I don't think he's anything. I've never really found it. I thought he was like a burner piece, wide receiver 3, when you had the Kupp Woods situation there with the Rams. He's never impressed me. Not a great route runner, not a very efficient, not a really good guy at the point of, he just doesn't make the kind of catches that you would need from a number one. And that's where Tutu Atwell and Nacua made sense last week. Just pay attention to the ownership, because I think Tutu Atwell is a very, very serviceable pivot. I think you could very easily see, equal target share between the two of them. I think they're very clearly the guys that you want to be intertwined there. But my favorite player on the Rams side by far is going to be Tyler Higbee. I'm going to have gobs and gobs of him, depending on what this ownership shows up at. I just don't find this position to be all that predictable outside of like trying to target touchdowns and bringing things along for the ride in terms of what those touchdowns could be in your game stacks. But like, this is going to be a dude who has to see tons and tons of volume. There's no doubt he's going to be the go-to, I think, for why am I blanking? Matt Stafford here in the long term. It just has to be something that can't be overstated how important he is to this offense.
I understand. I get it. Here's my one concern. The Rams offensive line held up well last week for sure, but Seattle got no pressure on Matthew Stafford at all. They didn't bat down a single ball. They didn't hit him once while he threw. They didn't sack him once. He was pressured on like less than 20% of dropbacks, all of that stuff. You look at this San Francisco defense, 5 sacks on Kenny Pickett. Had him miserable all damn game. That's what I want to see here. Like, how is Matthew Stafford going to function under significant duress for a lot of that game? Or maybe the Rams O-line, because remember, they were hurt and piecemealed together a lot of last year. So maybe if they're healthy, this Rams O-line looks a lot better and, channels the former years, which is possible. But that is my biggest concern is when you're getting pressure again with this D line, with this defense in general for San Francisco, can you hold up and can you still get accurate targets to guys like Puka Nacua and Tutu Atwell and Van Jefferson?
I don't disagree with that at all. I mean, it's going to be a real difficult spot. I mean, there's a reason San Francisco's favored by 8. I mean, this isn't some easy situation here. San Francisco, we talked about it last week against Pittsburgh. My concern, I just think they have the best defense. It's them and the Jets, 1-2 in some capacity. And you saw Brock Purdy do the things he was able to do offensively here. My one hope for the Rams is that if they do get down early, they just continue to chuck the ball because they don't really have a great running game option. Kyron Williams, Cam Akers, I think you're probably going to be airing it out by default no matter what. So I think that they can get there at volume. You didn't see as high of a price increase as I was kind of expecting based on what those targets are. So you're still getting Puka Nacua. Somebody was targeted 15 times, 10 catches for sub 5K. Same thing, Tutu Atwell, 8 targets for him, 6 catches, over 110 yards. Pretty great opportunity at these kind of prices. Do they have the super ceilings we're still looking for? That's to be determined, but there's no doubt that I think passing the ball against San Francisco still going to be a requirement, even though you have to worry about Bosa and this entire pass rush. It's going to be a difficult spot.
All right, we still got 3 games to go here. So what are you doing with the 49ers?
You're playing Brock Purdy. You're playing Brandon Ayuk. You're playing Deebo Samuel. This is just a fun football team. It's going to be frustrating to be like, oh, this is the guy this week. Oh, this is the guy this week. But Kittle, he fits into stacks just fine. 5,300 isn't some egregious pay. From a tight end perspective, he could end up in some way, shape, or form the most expensive guy there, pending the Kelsey Andrews Waller situation. I think he's okay, but it is a hamstring, so something that I'm still paying close attention to. Ayuk broke the slate in a pretty ridiculous way, but Brock Purdy is just kind of that dude. Shout out my alma mater, Iowa State. He was so damn good with us, and now we're so damn bad. And I think that can be encapsulated by the fact that Brock Purdy, he's more than just a game manager. He might have the look of one, but he's out there making throws and putting dimes and putting players in positions where they can make plays. And he's got some of the best skill position players there. And Ayuk, Samuel, and of course, Christian McCaffrey. Now, McCaffrey, 8,900. I actually have more interest this week than I had last week. And you still saw him put up nearly 30 fantasy points. And so I'm going to be paying attention what that ownership comes down to. But San Francisco, they are a juggernaut. I love this team. They were my pick to get to the NFC Championship game. It's them and the Eagles 1-2 in some capacity yet again this season for me. Shouldn't surprise anybody that these are great options for tournaments.
This next game to me is actually really interesting for a number of reasons. So let's get to this. We'll cover it on both sides, Eric. Hear me out. Both sides, right? So I'm not going to throw to you for both. Before we do, though, last thing, before we rip through these last 3 games, if you are looking to use our Sims tools and our ownership and the top stacks and the boom bust and premium Discord and all of that, and have just one package that gets you every single tool you want for NFL, it's 15% off. We've never discounted any of our Sims tools before for MLB, for PGA. We're discounting the Sims tool plus the entire package by 15%. Link in the description. The Sims data package is cheaper. Same thing, except you can only generate a certain amount of lineups, but same thing, especially if you're like a 3-max or single entry player, smaller fields, awesome package for you, going to give you a huge edge. And then the max package lets you generate up to 10,000 lineups. If you want to check it out, guys, 15% off. I promise you it's the best tools out there, the preeminent tools for NFL DFS, hands down right now. Nobody else is really doing this in the capacity that we are. I mentioned earlier, our boy Jorge took down 9th in a Millie Maker with over 1 million people in it, entries with the Sims tool, $10,000. We had a ton of screenshots from Showdown, people using our Showdown lineup simulator to win $3,000, $5,000, $10,000. There's going to be a lot more this season. Hopefully you and I are one of them for week 2. That would be great. Hey, look, I had a very positive week 1 using the Sims tool. Nothing crazy, right? Nothing crazy. But I'll take in the NFL, I'll take a 2x any day of the week because I know how bad it can get as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, you had Greg Ehrenberg, who profited on every single slate with the Sims. I used the Sims. It was so easy and efficient while I was on the show. I had a couple of mistakes, things that I wanted to, that I definitely regret having as much Jamal Williams and things that, showed up earlier in the week that the Sims actually were trying to eliminate out of my process. Maybe just trust our data too. We have some of the best data when it comes to being able to do these 10,000 Sims, put your 10,000 lineups together, being able to filter them and rank them. It's such an easy, efficient process. And if I had just let it do its job, I would have had a much more profitable week than I already did. So it's a fun first week, going to just keep getting better and better.
No doubt. And Kevin, I told you, I doubled up on DraftKings. So yeah, it was Not like I said, nothing big, but it was week 1. You'll take that. Also, the lineup generator is $14.95 for the week. That's for showdown and main slate. Well worth the price of admission on that if you're looking for a lower package, but something to still give you an edge. Is definitely worthwhile. Check that out. Link to everything in the description and in chat. All right, both sides of this. I'll hit it real quick and toss it to you.
Mhm.
I love Saquon Barkley this week. I really do.
Yes, same.
Love Barkley this week. They couldn't protect Daniel Jones last week. The Dallas Cowboys defense, the pass rush is elite. So are the Eagles. Washington's isn't bad. Like, Giants are going to have a tough time in the division for sure. But this defense for Arizona stinks. The Giants aren't going to be as good as people thought they were last year, but the Cardinals really are going to be every bit as bad as we projected them to be this year. I believe that. Offense and defense. I don't want anything from the Cardinals. Maybe I'll have trace amounts of James Conner, but in the passing, yeah, sure, I get that. But in the passing game, I can't trust Josh Dobbs to do anything. I like Saquon Barkley. I like Darren Waller, assuming he plays. He missed practice. And I'll probably take some shots on some of these receivers just because the matchup is good and they're almost touchdown road favorites. That is where I'm going with this game. Right now, at least. That could change.
Oh, I have so much James Conner and Saquon Barkley interest. It's not even funny. And it's both of them. I think everything you said about Saquon Barkley, justifiable, not difficult to imagine a scenario against this putrid Arizona team that in 8K Saquon Barkley could end up being the nuts here. It's really hard and diluted in terms of what that target share is going to be for other pieces there. Darren Waller's status, we're going to have to be paying attention to here as well. But I have basically no passing game interest here outside of, what would be Darren Waller, Saquon Barkley in the passing game with Daniel Jones. But James Conner, don't go completely sleeping on him. And this is kind of one of my bigger best ball stands too, is that maybe he does end up being the guy that they limit touches of because they're 1-9 coming down to the end of this season. But there's also the chance that he just continues to have the same role that he's had in previous seasons. He had 71% of the offensive snaps in 2022. Week 1 on the road in Washington, a spot where, they could have rotated it in different backs, giving guys looks. They're not expected to do anything. 84% of the snaps for James Conner. He has the passing game, and I do think Dobbs' best passing game option, because of his limitations as a passer, is checkdowns, just dropping it down to James Conner and letting him do something with it. Now,
and James Conner could also be... Wink Martindale likes to blitz in New York, so
it makes sense for them to be utilizing James Conner in the passing game even more, coming off of a week where 5 targets, 5 catches, only 8 yards there. But Washington, they basically sat there and allowed him to have those type of passes here. As you said, Giants are going to be out there blitzing. I think their best course of action is let James Conner do absolutely everything for this football team. And at 6,200, that is just it's a price that sticks out like a sore thumb based on his usage from week 1.
I very much understand it. I just think the touchdown equity kind of curtails my interest sometimes in guys like James Conner, but I get it.
Could it be worse for Dobbs than it was in week 1?
Yeah.
It could be. Well, that's not good.
Yeah, I think it could.
I guess he did complete 70% of passes, but like his ADOT was nothing. He had only 132 yards through the air on 30 attempts, which is quite possibly one of the more ridiculous numbers that I've seen in a long time. You would think that it was like pouring or hailing on the field.
Not as bad as Joe Burrow, though.
But
it's
wild.
Yeah, it really is. No, I think it could get pretty rough. We'll see. Their only touchdown came on a 2-yard fumble recovery. Yeah. Jets and Dallas. Jets 9.5-point dogs. I believe in this defense. I'll have some $2,700 Jets defense.
Same.
In the event that they get a pick or two, maybe bring one back, get some pressure on Dak. We'll see. But I don't have 2,700 just because they're so good. If they're very low owned, I have no problem banking on talent here and just taking some shots there. But I don't want really anybody on the Jets. Brandon Cooks has an injury. I don't think he plays this week.
Same.
If he does, it's going to be a close call. But truthfully, if you are going to Dallas, if you are going to Tony Pollard, you're doing this, or anybody for the Dallas Cowboys, and you can hit this on both sides too. I think it makes more sense this game, Eric. If you're going to these guys, you're doing it based on volume and not efficiency. That's the way it plays for me.
It's such a hard team to know what I want to do with Dallas, that is. The Jets, it's basically defense and move on with my existence. Zach Wilson, like, let's be serious. They have the third lowest top stack percentage on the board here at Stochastic this week. But looking at the Dallas side of things, I'm with you where Pollard, he's very, very good. And this offensive line is very, very good. I think he can kind of he's the touchdown equity. We just talked about all the concerns for James Conner. It's through the roof on a Tony Pollard there at 7,500. So I'm still all right going to him in any kind of capacity that you want to. This defense, even at 4K, I expect them to gain popularity for tournaments, possibly be something that people just blindly see. Hey, Zach Wilson on the other side. That's where I'm more inclined to be going to the Giants against a Dobbs, who I do find to be just completely abysmal. But you do have the Cowboys defense as an option going up against the Jets. And then wide receivers, Brandon Cooks, considering the injury, I do have some Gallup interest 4,200, but I do think just because of the positionality of Brandon Cooks, this probably ends up being either a Jalen Tolbert or Cavante Turpin type situation where they're both a flat 3K. Late slate's special. It worked for the Nakua side of things last time around. I think those are kind of the two guys that I'm keying in on because most people will flock to Gallup as the salary savings.
Yeah, I'm with you there for sure. I don't love either side. I could see this being like a 21-7 game or something like that. I actually still like the under at 38.5.
It's gross, but true.
Yeah, I do. I don't mind the under in this Washington-Denver game either. 39-point total. Washington, I just burnt up some of that omelet that maybe bacon came back up to say hello. Washington, I've been talking for 3+ hours today already.
Let's get you out of here. Yeah, Washington, good, Denver.
Look, no complaints. No complaints at all. But yeah, here's my analysis here. I have a little Javonte Williams. By the way, P. Ryan was better than Williams in week 1.
He's a good hashtag good at football. That's all. I'll keep saying it.
Yep. I think Williams still gets, and hey, shout out to Williams, man. Coming back from a devastating injury. That wasn't just ACL. It was like what? ACL, MCL, PCL, XCL,
all the CLs.
Yeah.
If it was a cruciate ligament, it was not attached to his body.
Yeah, and he came back and actually didn't look that bad either. But these are two pretty good defenses and two offenses. Like I never understood. Maybe I'm happy to be proven wrong, but I wasn't really understanding the Sam Howell hype. A lot of people are like, "Oh yeah, man, they're gonna be good." We'll see. Mate, he's got some weapons. He's got McLaurin. He's got Jahan Dodson. Samuel's not bad. Gibson was not used really at all in that game, so it looks like if you're going anywhere in the backfield, it would be Brian Robinson. But I have a little Williams, maybe a little Adam Trautman as well, just because Greg Dulcich is not going to play in this game, so that at least is worth taking a look at. Sean Payton brought him over from his days in New Orleans, even though they never used him in New Orleans. So not a game I'm in love with.
Yeah, not a game I'm in love with either. I think we can kind of pump the brakes on like Sam Howell hate to a certain extent.
I'm not hating him, but he's stunk.
Well, he's got Eric Bieniemy back there, obviously helped develop Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City. Patrick Mahomes is an outlier, so I'm not comparing the two of them, but something that Sam Howell will be able to do from a fantasy perspective is run. He will be able to run at times this season. You didn't see it. You saw it in the scramble for the touchdown, but only 2 attempts on the ground there, 11 yards. They just kind of played it safe. Nothing was going to be all that exciting going up against Arizona. Teams are just going to wield it out. I mean, that could end up being the Saquon Barkley thing where you just give him a ton of work, you just pack it in, keep Daniel Jones nice and tidy, and move on with your day with a win. But Washington, they still have Dotson, they still have McLaurin. It's just not the enticing spot going into Denver. It's a really good secondary. The defense is still going to be the calling card of that team. My thing I'm paying attention to is if Jerry Jeudy is active here for this one, it basically removes all interest I have in the Denver side of things. I can't assume that with a hamstring injury, Jerry Jeudy's just going to get unloaded for a full allotment of snaps right from the get-go. That creates a diluted situation where Sutton, Mims, Humphrey, everybody's going to be working in. How about the fact that Mims was behind Brandon Johnson and Philip Dorsett? That's not a great feeling for people who drafted Marvin Mims at the tail end of best ball. We kind of assumed it was going to be the rookie there, but it was not. It's going to be brutal there. Probably with you were Trautman because of the 3K tag, because he got targeted a decent enough amount of times last time around, and because there's that familiarity in this offense. I think that he's probably the only Denver target I would have any of in the event that Judy's active.
Agreed. And you wouldn't be excited about it. It would just be a guy that's kind of there. You know what I mean?
That's where you are. You're there.
Yeah.
You did powers. I did powers.
Yeah. 23 routes on 37 dropbacks. Now no Greg Dulcich. That's fine. I get it. Anyway, you guys are the best. Appreciate you hanging out as always. And if you haven't downloaded the Stochastic Avatar yet to put yourself in a spot to get in the Hall of Fame, Jordan and I do that every week, a new one. You tweet your wins to us. It's Stochastic HOF. Download the avatar first, stochastic.com/avatar, right? Use it wherever it is you play. DraftKings, FanDuel, Owner's Box, finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more. Could be a 5-cent entry. It doesn't matter. The package that you win, because you're also winning a Stochastic full month, $199 value of the Stochastic Sims package. That could be worth more than what you won in the prize pool. As long as you finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more, and you're not chopping with 3+ people, because showdowns, we would go broke if we were just giving everything out in showdowns. You're in, baby. Tweet us at Stochastic HOF with the screenshot rocking that avatar after a win. Get inducted into the Hall of Fame. Get the free month. It's a pretty cool thing for everybody, for us, for you. Nice way to put yourself in the running for more money as well. Anyway, thanks, guys. Follow Eric at Eric Lindquist. Check out all of his content over on OddsShopper and here. My picks for every game video is out. Check that out on the OddsShopper channel. Everything. Caesars, 50 into 250. 15% off all of our stuff. Owner's Box promo, all of that to get a free week of Stochastic NFL Sims. All that's in the link in the description. You can find it there. And appreciate you. We'll see you back here tomorrow for the NFL Strategy Show. And live before lock tonight for Vikings and Eagles. Go Birds, right?
Yeah. Skull. We're going to get fucking murdered.
Stop it. Stop. Dude, I hate see you guys too. Some bullshit, man. I see what you're trying to do. I respect it because I do the same thing, but
yeah.